Alrighty, I'm going to do a screen recording of a speech that I'm planning on giving for Toastmasters. This is practice. And, well, today's speech is Think, Don't Act, presented by Charles Lincoln. So, the purpose of my speech is to persuade you all of something. But at the same time, I want to make it kind of personal. So I'm trying to combine some of my interests of philosophy, politics, and history. So, what I'm going to persuade you of, or at least attempt to persuade you, is contra this thesis by Karl Marx from Theses on Feuerbach, specifically thesis number 11. This is it. This is the entire, it's an aphorism, German style of writing. The philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point is to change it. The way I interpret this is don't think, act, is what Karl Marx is trying to tell us here. We've already thought too much about things, and now the time is to change and start thinking. I actually first heard it in NYC, New York City, in 2011. I happened to be there during the Occupy protests, just as a kind of a viewing capacity. I certainly wasn't partaking in it. But I actually have family in New York, and I just happened to be there. And, so there's something big, you might as well go see what's going on. And, yeah, actually, there definitely were some people who had some marks around, and I had some friends who were down there, and that's where I first saw this quote. So it's good to read it and to think about it, and I often just read little aphorisms or paragraphs, and that's all I do is I just kind of look at them. And it reminded me later on, kind of simultaneously, I guess, because I'd read Philosophical Investigations the summer before, that this is the end of, I guess you'd say, aphorism 66 of Philosophical Investigations. It reminded me of, to repeat everything that was said as sort of a long paragraph, don't think but look. So that's interesting. I'm not sure exactly why I thought they were similar, but it certainly seems similar. Of course, Wittgenstein was later on. So I think the point is, the meaning is, don't think, we've already thought too much, but act. Or look. But I'm sticking with act. So what I think is philosophy, in my mind, is not exactly musings, but trying to analyze things in a systematic way, much akin to law school. You try to use logic, either deductive or inductive, and try to figure out solutions to things. So maybe we can use philosophy in other realms of activity, such as history, which some philosophers might indicate is interpreting the future. So, we can analyze history and interpreting the future, and then going forward, I would say that's politics, which comes from the Greek citizen and politeia. So, what Karl Marx influenced is getting people to act and not to think in the 20th century. This is a picture from 1972 from one of the Apollo missions, and I think it's interesting to wonder how this quote from Karl Marx, "Don't think, act," influenced the world. So much of the 20th century was often acting. Of course, there was a lot of thinking, but it didn't exactly end up, I'm sure, as many people hoped, and often in disaster. And therefore, I suggest we need to think and reevaluate, especially what's happened in the past 150 or so years since Karl Marx promoted that idea. And I think it's best to go down, take a step back, see that there have been many mistakes, and think.